I really like to, Betsy, I want to talk a little bit. You're in my generation. What do you think about marijuana legalization?
Well, I do think it's going to be legalized.
Okay.
I do. And I think that the major hurdle that listening to the legislature this last year came down to really how to determine whether a person is impaired by this and they're driving. And I think that we don't have something that's like the breathalyzer because marijuana doesn't have that element. And if you use urine to test it, you will only get back that's positive. Here in Vermont, you have to send it out to get an actual number, but the number doesn't really mean anything because if you're thin or you have a little bit of weight, it stays in your system longer. But if it's 3 days later and you still have it in your system, but you're not high, you're not impaired.
Okay.
There is impairment. We do have an impairment test for driving, and that was before the breathalyzer. And I see no reason why we cannot use that same impairment test today for people who are using marijuana and driving. And my understanding is people who drive and they're smoking is they actually go slower.
Who knows? I don't know. Linda, you were in
Yes.
This debate last year. What
I was.
give us some
I've been in 3 debates.
Yeah.
Okay, so the first was the legalization of marijuana for medical reasons, which I voted for. Then was the decriminalization of 1 ounce of marijuana, which I voted against. And then the full legalization that we had this year, which I also voted against. I am opposed to the legalization of marijuana. I think, as Betsy said, it's probably going to happen. I'll vote my no again, depending on the situation and what I hear about it. But I have to tell you that the vast majority of Essex residents who contacted me, I'm not saying the vast majority of the entire population, but those people who contacted me, both pro and con, the majority were opposed to the legalization of marijuana, almost at a 4-to-1. And I literally kept track. I had a notebook that said this was for, this was against, and that kind of thing, and I kept track. When I vote on a bill, I usually rely on my own feelings about the bill, the study that I have done about the bill, but I also listen to my constituents, to the people of Essex. And in the issue of marijuana, it was, I heard from those constituents. I attended the hearings on the issue. I heard from law enforcement. I heard from the schools. And so I said, I will vote on this issue on the bulk of what I heard from it. So I voted against marijuana.
Okay. V.
How much time we have?
You have 2 minutes.
Knew that one.
All right. Where do I begin? I'm for the legalization. The libertarian in me will love a full legalization. The rationale, the reasonable person in me realizes that's not going to happen. One of the reasons, well, it's the primary reason that I am for it is based on that the law, it seems irrational. And I'll explain by saying that, we allow kids at the age of 18 to be able to get cigarettes. We allow adults at 21 to get alcohol. But then somehow we can turn around and say, you can't smoke cigarettes or you can't smoke marijuana because, insert your reasoning here. And so I kind of look at that and go, well, that makes no sense, and B, the fact that the federal government now has kept it as a Class 1 drug, which is in the same league as heroin and opioids, and so essentially has no medical use. Well, if that was the case, then why are we now having it as medical? Why can you get a medical license to have marijuana? So the 2 reasons aren't adding up. And also for the fact that in terms of just marijuana itself, what are the actual health risks when you compare it to, say, alcohol and tobacco? Everyone in this room knows someone who has had a tobacco-related illness. Everyone in this room has had someone who has had some kind of alcohol-related illness. I bet you no one in this room has ever had someone who's suffered from a marijuana illness. You can't OD on marijuana. You can kind of OD on cigarettes, that would take a lot of cigarettes, and you should probably go seek help. And we all know, I mean, go to UVM on a Friday night or Saturday night, you'll see a bunch of kids who have OD'd on, essentially consumed way too much alcohol, whether they're blacked out drunk, they have to get their stomach pumped out, or insert whatever alcohol-related illness here. So I look at the law itself and go, no marijuana because some reason, but we're going to allow alcohol and tobacco, even though they have had a track record that is far worse than marijuana. And it's not like marijuana just popped out of nowhere. It's been a thing for centuries. So
Very good.